Welcome, friend, to Life and Liberty Radio. I'm David Householder, here to encourage your pursuit of happiness. You and our partners exploring our shared spiritual journeys. Together, we're dreaming and working for a free society. Tell others today about our adventure in faith and freedom. So breathe in, open your mind, lift up your spirit. Let's get started. All of us are very relieved that it looks like the lone remaining bomber from the Boston Marathon has been apprehended, and that's great. And the people who did it did a magnificent job. We're glad that that happened. Our hearts go out to the victims and the survivors and the loved ones of people around them. And also, of course, to the family members of the perpetrators who have to be dealing with incredible shame and guilt. Hate to be associated with Lee Harvey Oswald in 1963. The same kind of thing. Schoolmates and roommates and neighbors thinking, if only I had, I woulda, coulda, shoulda, etc. That being set aside, and we are all very grateful that this has come to a conclusion, although there might be other accomplices out and about, I am concerned as an American who is very much a proponent of liberty and a free society, and I think that's what Boston kind of invented, as the governor of Massachusetts said at the big memorial service at the Cathedral of the Holy Cross. Boston invented America. Well, yeah, they did it, but together with James Mason and Jefferson and Franklin and others. But still, there's no question that this is one of the birthplaces of liberty. And the Founding Fathers, I'm sure, would have rolled in their graves had they seen the tanks rolling in Boston. And yes, they were tanks. There's no other word for it. There has been a complete militarization of the police. And I'm the kind of guy who likes to have police like Matt Dillon from Gunsmoke and Andy Griffith and the cops that I grew up with who did not have armor or flak jackets or helmets, but they were one of us. And that de-escalated things. In fact, I kind of like it in England where they don't carry guns unless they're specialized police. It kind of calms things down. I used to work at a pizza parlor, and one of my jobs as the biggest guy there was that there was a club underneath the sink, and if things got out of control, I would take it out, and I would subdue things. And I'm not really comfortable with the fact that club was there. I have nothing against weapons per se, and I think we have a right to guns and defense. But the minute I pulled that out, and I had to do it once, when there was a little bit of violence going on around the corner in the parking lot, and I wanted to protect some people, it instantly escalated things. And I don't think we need an arms race here domestically. And the pictures of the SWAT teams and the 8,000 police are absolutely chilling. 8,000 police going after one 19-year-old. And sure, he's dangerous. I understand that. And we want to protect the police. I understand that too. But I also know that 3 or 4 seasoned police officers with decades behind them could have gone into the neighborhood much more quietly and could have found him. I do think that pictures like these provoke other wannabe terrorists, these pictures of massive retaliation, because that's part of what they want. They want a big reaction. And, well, I think in sending out 8,000 police officers, we gave them the big reaction. We rewarded the effort. And I think that we should have quietly kept things going in the neighborhood and sent in some very, very seasoned volunteer police officers who could have gone in there. And I've known police officers who could have talked this guy out of the boat and who would have found out where he was just by asking some neighbors politely as citizens. And I've got footage you can see on my page here of a razzia. And a razzia is a raid where police go into homes without warrants and home by home by home by home without any probable cause in any of the homes, and yelling at the people, hands up, and throwing them out of their houses. And these are their homes. These are Americans. There is something called the Fourth Amendment. And the Fourth Amendment tells us that we're protected from unreasonable searches. Well, it's an emergency. Well, especially in an emergency, we need to be careful, because we can call everything an emergency, and we've done that before, haven't we? We've called everything an emergency, and given presidents pretty much unlimited, permanent emergency powers. And please hear me, I'm not coming down on the police. These are great, great officers, men and women. And I don't want them to be in harm's way. But with a show of violence like that, it calls forth an equal and opposite reaction. We don't need to do that. When I work in family situations which get violent, as a pastor, the first thing I do, always, not just often, I de-escalate the situation. I don't escalate it. I de-escalate it. And I use reason and calmness and helicopters all over the place with this guy in the boat, Jahar Tsarnaev. He's in the boat. He's 19 years old. He's scared to death. There's helicopters all over the place. There's SWAT teams, with laser scopes on his forehead. And do you think that makes it more likely for him to kill himself or blow up the boat or the whole neighborhood or kill someone else? I think so. I think a calm cop walking up saying, "Hey, dude, let's talk. Yeah, you and me. Let's talk. Let's find a best case solution here for you and for me." That's what would have worked so much better. And we still had a pretty good outcome, and I understand that, and the burden of proof's on me. But I just think this is how we lose our freedoms. It's always for the sake of safety. I mean, if you look at in France, the French Revolution, which was supposed to be for liberté, we ended up in no time with something called Le Comité de Salut Public, which is the Committee on Public Safety. It's always safety. And what they did is they basically started doing the first thought police ever, and if you had bad thoughts, off with your head, the guillotine. And I'm not saying we're headed for the guillotine, but I don't even want to move in that direction, even if we're a few miles off. I don't think we're a police state. I just don't want to move in that direction, if you understand what I mean. I'd like to take a couple of steps in de-escalation. I'd like to see regular cops with a vest and a badge. I really would. I'd like to see them on the street and not just in cars. I'd like to see. I had a police leader in a whole county here. The sheriff in a county I used to live in had a great quote. He said he wants police officers who want to be police officers, but the first thing he asks them in interviewing is, "Are you really excited about being a police officer?" If they said yes, he wouldn't hire them. He says, "I want people who are responsible, but not people enthusiastic about being police officers. Those people just get me in trouble." And I think that's probably true. I want calm people as police officers. I want people who can diffuse arguments, not ratchet them up. 8,000 police officers imposing martial law in a big part of Boston, shutting down everything. People being told to stay in their homes, not asked. People's houses being searched, and it wasn't voluntary. I mean, you can look at the films. They were searched house to house to house to house. Now you say, well, there was exigent circumstances, and there's an exception to the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment says that no unreasonable searches and seizures. You got to have a warrant with probable cause. Well, there's the exigent circumstances. Well, yeah, sure, there's exigent circumstances, but most of them have to do with the preservation of evidence. If you know that someone's running into a house to destroy evidence, you've only got seconds to act. You can do that. That's what that's for. And I understand there's exceptions to everything, but people are reading exigent circumstances as pretty much meaning anytime we want to do it. I want to see guardrails on these things, solid concrete guardrails on a term like exigent circumstances. I mean, help me with this. Put it on my comments here. If you can find me a concrete line which tells the police where that line is. I don't see it anywhere. I looked all afternoon. I don't see it anywhere. Pretty much they can define it any way they want. And if it's really serious or public safety is at risk, well, public safety is always at risk a little bit. That's why we have cops on 24/7. So the Bill of Rights is thrown out because there's always some level of risk. So I really do think that I don't think there was a blunder here. I don't think we're in a police state. I just want to move in the direction of a civil, free society. And yes, that means from time to time people are going to do things we don't like, but it also means we're going to be responsible for ourselves. And it also means we're going to be our brother's keeper. And it also means we're going to be watching out for young adults around us. And we can't rely on 8,000 cops to squash every hot-headed young 20-something. Those hot-headed 20-somethings ought to be corralled by the men, the fathers and grandfathers of the neighborhoods. It's our job as older, stronger, wiser men to befriend younger men in our circles, and I've got 5 or 6 that I work with. Just I don't want to squelch their enthusiasm. I want to channel it into something good. And young men without older men around are nothing but trouble. And this is not something to be solved by eavesdropping, by cameras, by police, by SWAT teams. This is something that's going to be solved by Andy Griffith and Matt Dillon from Gunsmoke. Let's move in the direction of the better angels of our nature. So I'm not coming down on the cops. Well done, guys. You got them. That's good. It's just a yellow light for me, not a red light. It's a yellow light. Do we really want to respond this firmly to something like this? Do we really want to shut down all of Boston? Do we really want to have martial law for hours on end? I don't think we want to start down that path. And I'm hoping you don't think so either. Well, that's all for today on Life and Liberty Radio. Thanks so much for sharing this part of your spiritual journey with me. Now, the views on this program are not necessarily those of my advertisers, sponsors, places I work or do business with. They're purely my own, but I'm sharing them with you, so share your ideas with me. Write me on Twitter at Liberty House, LIBERTYHOUS, no E. Until next time, let's continue dreaming and working for a free and spiritually grounded society.